Welcome back to Primary Source China Investment. Peng Guo and I are here this week to talk about show Q6, and the topic is the China-U.S. trade war. Of course, everybody's seen the news, everybody's seen the headlines, but we wanted to get into these two narratives that are happening right now, and we wanted to talk about both sides. And that narrative is China and U.S. relations are normalizing. We have some evidence of that. And then China-U.S. relationships are getting worse. So at the outset, I'm going to throw it to Peng Guo. What's your answer to that quick question, Peng Guo? Are relationships getting better or worse?
Obviously, it's getting worse. And it's like you want to do business with someone with the bad relationship, the business will not move forward.
Yeah, I think you and I are in agreement here, but there is evidence to the contrary. So let's start with that. On the side of getting better or encouraging, right? Jamie Dimon, CEO of the largest U.S. bank, came out and said U.S. and China need full engagement, and that really moved a little bit of the market. Another announcement came from David Tepper, his famous hedge fund Appaloosa, over the last few months got very long a number of key Chinese stocks, including Alibaba, Pinduoduo, and also FXI. Remember, those are mostly Chinese stocks traded outside of China. A third point we can see is that China's imports jumped 8.5%, exceeding purchases from the U.S. So, China is doing a little bit to try to answer the questions. Is that going to be enough? I don't know. I don't think so, Peng Guo. What's your thought there?
I think right now it's clearly United States, they try to diversify the merchandise and increase the trading relationship with other countries.
Yeah.
Uh, Unfortunately, those process doesn't try to reach United States goal. So a lot of the China product that they can go to the third country and still enter into the United States because that is a complicated product chain. So even like the final product from Mexico, maybe some of the parts, some of the raw materials come from China. So China is still the most efficient and the largest supply chain in the
Yeah,
world.
that's
So I
exactly
think
right.
in global trade, there's no way to escape that. But back to the United States goal. So right now it's clear to see the history. So it's really trading war starting from the Donald Trump. So it's almost more than 80 years. So people clearly to see what's the result, what happens, and then rethink about it. Like we talk about the China decouple for a couple of times, and then nobody say with that. So whoever proposed a decouple policy or idea, and that proved to be a bad idea.
Yeah, there's right before we get to the worsening, there is one item that came up. This Russian bear, China panda hugging each other. Everybody's getting tiresome. I mean, even Putin was falling asleep at the gala. But if uh, if Russia was looking for China to ease these financial restrictions on trade with Russia, because remember, the U.S. has put out some notification that says if banks are facilitating transaction with Russia, U.S. will penalize those Chinese banks. Um, so there was nothing announced there. And the second thing was this Siberia 2 natural gas pipeline, which Russia really wants. China didn't greenlight that either. So, Putin left with what we might say in Texas, with a lot of hat and no cattle. So he got a lot of promises, had a lot of dinners, but he didn't get anything. And one thing to remember is that, China exports more than $550 billion worth of goods to the US and only about 30 billion to Russia. So this relationship, I think, is driving a lot. And also, you can't discount the geopolitics of the Israel card here. So let's look at on the
Yeah,
side of,
I heard
go ahead.
that's true. I heard a lot of the geopolitics. So, but that's so funny thing is that those guys always reach the opposite objective. I think Putin this time to start the next news Siberia natural gas pipeline, it's really because of the United States and the NATO push Russian back to the China. Otherwise, they probably still stay in the Europe area. Right now, they just adjust their economy center and try to move to the more close to the China area.
Yeah.
So all those things is really not China can do anything with that. It's really just the Russian get a push. They have to do it.
Yeah, yeah. We have a lot of history about China-Russia relationship. So anybody that's read history knows that that doesn't end well. But let's get to the, on the getting worse side, right? So, Biden, announced a number of these tariffs, and it's important to know that, despite the size of the trade between China and U.S., these tariffs were very, very targeted. Batteries, medical equipment, solar cells. These are the areas where the U.S. wants to basically claw back into some position. Very targeted. About 20 billion in imports from China are targeted. There was another announcement which I saw, which was very interesting, was that Microsoft has asked hundreds of China-based AI staff to relocate. I think this goes to a lot of the things that are happening in Europe. Accusations of spying, and when we're not saying anybody's right or wrong, there's been spying going on for many, many years. So companies are taking a much more assertive tack. And then the final thing I wanted to bring up is this was an interesting chart from the Pew Research Center, and it tracks Americans' view of China. This was a shocking number to me, that the unfavorable view of China right now is more than 80%, and the favorable view is 16%. Just a few years ago, well, maybe not a few, a decade ago, those numbers were very, very different. More than half the people, more than half of Americans had a favorable view of China a decade ago. And so that's changed a lot, which leads me to, an anecdotal piece. When I was a kid, my grandmother would never buy anything from Japan. She would always look at the label, where is it made? I'd never buy anything made in Japan because, she had some, trauma from World War II and grew up in the shadow of that. So that's a real feeling. And, the consumer controls the U.S. economy. And if the consumer starts turning over everything and says, I don't want to buy in China, that could be a snowball effect. I'm not saying that's happening now, but I would certainly be on the lookout for consumers changing their preference. I'll give you the last word, Pengguo.
Yeah, I feel a lot of things you cannot base on the PPT or desire. You have to clearly understand what's the fact and what's your desire. So right now, a lot of the actions is really based on the political desire. And obviously, if you don't take the responsibility or suffer the consequence, those guys just do whatever they want.
Yeah, that's a politician.
And yeah, geopolitics is really powerful, just damage the relationship in almost over the night. So it's hard to spend like the 20, 30 years build a positive relationship, but you can destroy it over the night. Both countries should be more focused on how to work together
Yeah.
to make them run faster, rather than always think about how to make the other guys get slow and what's the best strategy to defeat it. This doesn't make any sense. For the defeat someone is really how to improve yourself.
Well, we're going to leave it there with show Q6. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you.